and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am pretty good, sir. How are you?
I am very well. Looking forward to covering this movie I have not watched in years.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it as well.
Yeah. I think you said this was your favorite Roger Corman movie?
It is my favorite Corman movie.
Yeah. It's probably my...
certainly of his own stuff, anyway.
Yeah, I would say Pit and the Pendulum for me, but this is a close second. It's a close second. It's kind of both of these are high.
I think his entire there's like 8 movies of Poe cycle, and I think they've all got something.
They're all pretty. Yeah, they're all worth watching for sure.
Yeah.
When did you first see the
when I was a kid,
Masque of the Red Death?
I think pretty much sure it was a late night BBC Two job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it was one of those where they did a Poe thing.
So yeah, I was going to say, I think my first time seeing this was on TV at some point, for sure. But yeah, a great movie. I feel like every time I watch movies, particularly from this period, I'm just reminded of how much I love Technicolor.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about those vibrant colors in these films that every time I'm like, oh, I just love it.
It is weird, isn't it? It's the sort of whole...
It's
look, we've got colour and look what we can do with it.
Well, it all looks... Yeah, it all looks really fake, but it adds a real... But it adds such a dream-like vibe to everything.
That is always... The problem with a lot of the movies is, like you said, it does look very fake, which is sort of sad. But like you said, especially these sort of Italian ones,
exactly, it adds something, doesn't it?
Sort of, a sort of slightly unhingedness about it that makes it feel all like a fever dream. Yeah, and this certainly feels like that for most of it. I mean,
this film in particular feels like a fever dream because half of the characters in the movie are like fucked out of their faces on one thing or another, and it's all just one big party orgy thing going on, and they're all clearly on something, and it kind of adds to that. The color kind of adds to that for sure.
Yeah. It's a lot of the sort of the Hammer movies had the same sort of thing, and they had sort of slightly chunky sets that weren't helped by the fact that they were really bright.
Yes, yeah.
They not draw attention to them, but
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because we'll get to it in a minute, but the opening of this movie, it's like, wow, you have literally taken a Universal horror set, like fog machine included, and just chucked it in color and chucked then modern actors in front of it. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. A lot of the sets were previously used from the film Beckett.
Right. I don't think I've seen Beckett.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
Right.
I love
this. This was very much a thing of the period. Hammer did this a lot with reusing. They're like, oh hey, we're filming this movie. Can we film another movie like side by side and just get another movie out while we're here?
They really they loved doing that because they were broke as fuck.
Yeah, of course.
They're desperately trying to get anything they possibly
get your money's worth.
Just like when we did The Mummy, I think the sets from that was left over from. What were they left over from? It wasn't Cleopatra, was it? Was it Cleopatra?
It might have been Cleopatra.
Was it Carry On Cleo? I can't remember, but I know the sets were from.
Well, you'll have to re-listen to our podcast where you explained where it was from. I don't think this is a Hammer movie, though, is it? This is some other company, but I can't remember.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. It's not Hammer, though.
Just because I compared it to Hammer, but people might have thought I meant this is a Hammer movie. It's not a Hammer movie.
I can't remember what the Corman thing was now, but it was.
Yeah, I know. I'm struggling to think, but
he made it in conjunction with a British company.
Yeah. So I think this is it's the first adaptation of the Masque of the Red Death that has sound. I believe there was a silent movie, like German, silent movie before this.
Yeah. And I think there have been radio versions and stuff like that.
Yeah. But let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah.
We open, as I said, on this. Well, we get obviously the title crawl. Awesome music.
I do love the type, the sort of blood splattered.
Yes.
Type. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. I really like that. Especially again, it's that like we have color.
Yes.
Look at this red. And again, it reminds me a lot of Hammer with the like the blood on Dracula's grave, kind of on the grave at the start opening of Dracula.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing where they're like, look at this vivid red. You're watching a horror.
Yes.
We open, as I said, to this real. It literally looks like it's. You could imagine Lon Chaney Jr. skulking around as the Wolfman.
Yeah.
You know, or Fritz fucking about in.
Or just watch it, or just see the monster coming out.
Or just the monster, or Dr. Pretorius, or someone, you know, just wandering around in the fog. But it's not. It is grandmother. She's gathering some kindling. And we see a man in red. And it's John Westbrook. But honestly, if you just don't know that, it could so easily be Christopher Lee at some points. The voice is like, wow, it's so Christopher Lee in places. Like I could honestly imagine it was Christopher Lee, but it's not. So the man in red, he calls to her. He's sitting beneath this dead tree.
Playing with tarot cards.
Yes. And we see the white rose turning red.
Yeah, it's a cool little thing. It's
a great effect.
See the sort of cut, but still good.
It's still cool, you know. And imagine at the time, it's like, wow, that's really, you know, really impressive.
There's a couple of transitions in this movie that are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Later on, there's one of my favourite ones later on, but yeah, there's really nice little, you know, camera effects that work really well for 64.
Yeah. Wow, I just realized I downloaded the trailer for this movie to put in the background while we talk this through, and I'm just watching it run in the background. It spoils the fuck out of the end of this movie, but never mind. I always, you know, I mean, if you know Poe, it's kind of obvious, and it's kind of obvious what it's going to be anyway. I think, you know, you'd probably guess, but anyway, it literally has the end of the movie here.
Right.
So anyway, yes, he turns this white rose red, gives it to the grandmother, and he tells her, "You take this back to your village with a message. The day of deliverance is at hand."
Yeah.
She bows.
I think it's fuck.
Yeah, she doesn't seem too concerned. She bows. She's like, yeah, okay. and then Vincent Price fucking rocks up in his carriage and nearly knackers a kid. Like, just like the best entrance ever.
Yeah. The big way.
Yeah. Well, they say that after the kid almost gets murdered. But yes, it is Prince Prospero, played by Vincent Price. He enters in his royal carriage to the village. What's the village called? Catania? Catania. That's what it's got here. He like, I mean, the way he comes out of this thing, you can tell the villagers all despise the man.
Oh god, yeah.
But the way he comes out of the carriage is like, I'm blessing you with my presence. Look at me, everybody.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this villager's like holding this terrified child. Everyone's just looking on in disgust.
Yeah, and he gets all bold, doesn't he? He's like, Prince is saying about how you know, he's grateful for their crops and stuff, and
yeah, you know, and he's like, hey, speaking of your crops, come to my feast.
Yeah, and the kid and the bloke's like, oh, you know, you can have them all while we starve and like die horribly, and of course he's affronted by this. It's like, why does this dog speak, sort of thing. It's like,
because he says
this isn't right. Who do you think you are? Yeah,
well, because the guy says, like, you know, we only receive scraps from your table like dogs.
Yes.
Then Prince Prospero's like, yeah, why is this dog even speaking to me? What is this? So the man says to Prospero that there has been this prophecy a holy man has told the old woman that they will be delivered from his reign of terror.
Yeah. And you do sort of think, wow, she interpreted that interestingly, didn't she?
She did. Yes, she took a message from that. I don't know that was the intended message.
No.
I thought. No, I like her optimism.
Yes.
She's met this red hooded devil in the middle of a dead wood.
Yeah.
And he said, your entire village's day of deliverance is at hand. And she took that as a positive. She was like, oh, we're going to be all good. I wouldn't have done that. I'm a bit more of a pessimist, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would have gone back to the village and gone, I think we're fucked, guys.
Yes.
She went back and went, hey, it's going to be all good. Prince Prospero is going to go.
Yeah.
Our day of deliverance. Yay.
It's all going to be good for the peasants.
It's going to be great for us peasants from now on. Don't you worry about it. Yeah, we see his father-in-law there as well. He kind of backs him up. And Gino is the man's name.
Quite his father-in-law yet.
Well, yes, that's true. Yeah, Prospero says, do you know what? You guys should probably be down on your knees thanking me. And he gets his guards immediately to grab them. Not only put them on their knees, he tells his guards to garrote them.
Yes.
The guards were ready though. They already grabbed the heads and pulled it back. They were like,
they already had the garrotes in their hands.
We've done this before. We've been here before.
We know the drill, sir.
We know the drill. It's all good. Yeah, he's like, garrote them, and immediately they start doing so. When we see Francesca, she comes running out of the crowd. We did see her watching on, but yeah, she bursts into action. She grabs it, kind of kneels before Prospero, grabs his robe and begs for mercy.
Yeah, Francesca, who's probably the cleanest person in this entire village.
She is.
And even she's dirty.
Yeah.
Lovely Jane Asher there.
Yeah, she as the Monty Python sketch goes, you can tell that Prospero is a prince because he hasn't got shit on him.
Yeah.
She does, however, have less shit
Yes,
than the rest of the village. So,
well, Prospero's got to, get some sort of look in, hasn't he?
That's
how's he going to tell she's a beautiful woman if she's covered in shit?
Yeah. Well, he does take her for a bath immediately, but
he does, yes.
But yeah. Anyway, she begs for mercy, and Prospero, asks. He's like, well, I think you can decide the fate of both of these people, But and then we get Alfredo. He turns up and he remarks, how entertaining this is.
Yeah, you promised me entertainment, and I didn't think it would be this good. Basically,
yeah.
Prospero's like, not fucking for you, mate.
Yeah,
it's like, I love how sort of how he doesn't give a fuck about anything.
No, neither of them do. They're both hideous.
Yeah. And of course, Patrick McGee, who was Alfredo, Nigel Green, who is Ludovico. Both wonderful actors who were in one of my favourite movies together as Zulu.
Yes, that's a film we should probably cover one day.
Yes, we will. We did cover it on the radio once, but
but I mean in terms of
for the show. So yeah, wonderful actors.
Oh yeah, I mean the cast, I think, pretty much top to bottom here.
Yeah,
is tremendous. This is, I think, I was thinking about this. This is our first Vincent Price movie, I think, that we've done on this show, which is surprising. Huge Vincent Price fan, and I'm surprised we haven't yet. But for some reason, we haven't. I don't think.
I think there's certainly Vincent Price movies on the list.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I would love to. I really want to do, House on Haunted Hill, House of Wax. There's a bunch of Vincent Price that I'd love to do.
Yeah, I want to do
Thebes.
Theatre of Blood.
Theatre of Blood. Yeah.
It's massively silly and brilliant.
Well, I was going to say Dr. Phoebes for that.
Yes,
reason,
Dr. Phoebes. It's great. It's Catamount Row in it, so that's been a bonus. This would be the first Price movie we've done, which is quite odd actually. But
but Prospero does say he is like, I'll corrupt her soon. Don't you worry, I'm gonna corrupt her. And basically he says to Francesca, make a decision. You need to choose. Fortunately, at least for now, there's a big scream, and he's like, "Go and shut that up."
Yeah, he's like, "Silence that."
It's like, silence that. Not like, "Oh my goodness, what's happening to these poor villagers?"
Oh dear!
Oh no!
No,
something horrible's happening. Like, it's not even silence her. It's silence that. Go and stop that, please. Less of that. The screaming continues, and Prospero gets a little agitated and heads off to find out for himself. He gets to the hut and he finds this guard who's like pretty much totally stunned, and the guard's like, look, this is a bit bad. That's bad.
And it's a bit shit.
Sorry?
I said, I'm not going in there anymore, it's a bit shit.
Yeah. We see the old lady, so positive she was 10 minutes ago, is now covered in red spots. It is the Red Death, as Vincent exclaims.
Yeah.
He then returns to the group, and he's like, did any of you three touch that lady in there?
Yeah.
you know where that screaming came from. None of you touched her, right? But he's like, well, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, they all nod. They all shake their heads like, no, we didn't touch the old lady.
Yeah,
she's clearly an untouchable peasant. Why would we touch her?
Yeah. Look at me. I am the cleanest of peasants. I certainly haven't been touching her. I mean, come on. So they were like, okay, well, all three of you are coming to the castle. However, you, lady, are coming with me personally. The other two, they'll be all right. Don't worry.
Yeah,
they can. They'll be fine. So they're all loaded up, and then Prospero says to the guards, well, just burn the entire village down, I guess.
Right.
Cleanse the village. We will have none of this Red Death.
I do love that that they clearly doused the set in
like kerosene.
Because exactly.
Yeah.
Because those
just explodes.
They don't just catch.
No.
They just like absolutely like rage really quickly. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
What was that? This hut was clearly made of kerosene.
Well, yeah, or I guess I mean, cow shit's pretty flammable, right?
That's true.
I guess it was just covered in shit. But yeah, no, it goes up fast.
Yeah.
But yes, in any case, we then head to the palace, and he
calls for his guys to send for all of his mates, basically.
Yeah, he's like, bring everyone for the feast.
Yeah, make sure everybody gets here and avoid the village at all costs, because it's got them at death.
Yeah, well, and it's on fire.
Well, that's the other thing. They probably would avoid it. Actually, it is probably still burning.
It's full of plague and fire. Meanwhile, Francesca is being taken to a bath. She says, I will bathe in my own time, and the maids are like, no.
Yeah, no, you won't.
No, they strip her and throw her in the bath. Prospero enters with Juliana, who is equally evil looking.
Yeah, the Hazel Court.
Yeah, and they laugh at Francesca for trying to cover herself, or he laughs, I should say.
Yes. He says, "Why do you cover yourself?" It's like it's not decent for you.
Why
to look
do
at me.
you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're a creepy old man.
She's got the crucifix around her neck, which is pretty elaborate for a peasant.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Actually,
probably some sort of family heirloom. The only thing that's worth anything in the entire village, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he does question. He's like, "Is that ornamental, or is it symbolic of your faith?"
Do you genuinely believe?
Do you really believe? And she says, "Yeah, I truly believe." And he's like, well, then you can take that off. You know, is it? I can't remember. I think at this point he is just like openly like, this is a house of fucking Satan, dude.
Yeah.
Like we ain't having none of that here.
Just God's dead.
Yeah.
You know, your faith in a dead God is ridiculous. You know, only basically Satan rules now.
Yeah, you're never to wear it again in this castle. Yeah, this is Satan's domain. He then tells Juliana, who is fucking thrilled that this woman's here.
Yeah, she's like, why is she here?
Why is she in my bath?
Yeah,
in my room,
which is a fucking cool bath. That is like the one of the fanciest baths I've ever seen. Big two massive swans either side.
Yeah, it's like as elaborate as and extravagant as possible, which kind of sums up this whole castle. It is just excess.
Yeah,
it's excess everywhere. But yeah, he tells Juliana that you know, after bathing her in Juliana's bath, she is to be dressed in Juliana's finest gowns. You know, and like I said, Juliana seems thrilled about this.
All I can say is they must have really good and very quick working tailors.
Yes,
because
the size difference.
Jane Asher is a lot more.
I mean, that would have been hilarious if she came out and it was just didn't fit at all.
Yeah, it's really baggy dress,
just ludicrous, like a kid wearing a mother's clothes.
Yeah, that probably would have added to the movie. Actually,
it probably would have. Yeah, like the like complete out of water, you know, situation where she just doesn't fit in at all, even in the clothes. Yeah. But this is more. Well, I don't know if it was intended or whether it's just Vincent Price being Vincent Price and Vincent Price's voice. But there's this wonderful moment when Francesca asks about her father and Gino.
Yeah.
And he says they're being quartered.
Yeah, I love that line.
And I was immediately like, "What do you mean you're literally cutting them into quarters?"
Yeah, he basically does leave. He leaves.
He lingers on it, doesn't he? Yeah.
He says they're being quartered. Like somewhere safe. Sort of thing.
They're being quartered.
Okay.
It's fine. I mean, they are being put into quarters.
Yeah.
They're not being pulled apart by horses. Honest. Yeah, and you know, it's that delivery of it's Vincent Price's voice. You know, it's so good.
And I think, you know, Corman always wanted Price for this role because
he's perfect for it.
He Corman saw him as this perfect, you know, debonair, you know, gentleman who was although quite gentle, was probably tormented by demons as much as the character is. So
yeah, I mean, I always thought he did like Hopkins' Witchfinder General so well for that reason. You know, he's just and Pit and the Pendulum again, another Poe adaptation. He just he's just got that way about him.
Yeah, I think he certainly understands how to project evil. Basically,
yes.
It's and even though sometimes it can be over the top.
It suits the movie though
so well because you believe him. You don't. It doesn't feel like he's messing around. It just it feels like he's genuinely some sort of lunatic, evil doer. You know. Yeah,
absolutely. So Prospero leaves, and Juliana basically says, you know, You've not made the best, you know, you've not made the best impression here. You're not off to a good start. You came in with the cross. I mean, to be fair, she didn't know any of this. She's just been kidnapped from a village. But it's like, well, you've made a terrible impression, kidnapped lady.
Kidnapped lady who's going to try and steal my thunder.
Yeah.
That's basically all she's worried about. Is that Prospero's attention is now going to be on somebody else. Yeah,
and Francesca's like, so are you going to do what he says? And she says, you know, I will do as he says. And she say something like, we all must.
Because we all must.
We all must do what he says. Yeah. So I think we then cut to the feast, which is has begun, the ongoing, everlasting feast of debauchery. And Alfredo tells a woman he's got this knife to her like mouth.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Not sure what was going on.
He's feeding her or something, but
maybe because the cut doesn't make it clear because she looks kind of worried at first, and so I wasn't sure. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he's fed her with the knife and he's just moving it out of her mouth.
Yeah, that's what I presumed was going on. Either than that, or he's, attempting some kind of dentistry. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But the only thing I could think of was that he was feeding her with the knife, and
the only reason I felt like it.
Yeah,
the only reason I felt like it wasn't that is because she looks kind of worried at first. Like she smiles once the knife is kind of moved further away. She smiles, but she does seem kind of concerned. Maybe he just fed her something concerning. I don't know, but anyway, he says he will tell her about terror, which Prospero overhears.
Yeah.
And seems kind of amused. He's like, well, what do you know about terror? And ultimately basically calls him away to another room. But I think pretty much everyone follows anyway. He's like, come with me, and then everyone follows. I guess he is the host of the party, and he's like, okay, we're gonna have a show. They probably know this routine, much like the guards. I think everyone around Prospero is fully aware of how Prospero works.
Yeah.
So
I don't imagine you last very long if you don't, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's true.
I mean, they're all quick to do what he tells them, so
I think they're all terrified of him.
Yeah, they are, but they're also
they're enablers. They all benefit. These people certainly benefit from him, but I think they're all terrified and know that his house, his rules. Literally, do anything he says.
Yeah.
But Prospero questions. He's like, is terror hearing time ticking away? Is it the sound of heartbeat? Is it the sound of footsteps approaching?
But you've got that massive clock in the hall.
Yes, because he walks past that when he says about. he says that as he walks past. He talks about the ticking time, doesn't he?
Yeah,
the passing of time. But then he introduces some dancers. We see Esmeralda,
Hop Toad and Esmeralda,
and Hop Toad. Yes,
which are actually from a different story.
Oh, okay. I'm not that familiar with Poe's work, to be honest, outside of film. I've read, like, many, many moons ago. But, I couldn't tell you specific story.
I've read most of the Poe stuff.
You're a big Poe fan, aren't you?
I do love Poe, yeah. I've read most of his, but, yeah, Hop Toad is a separate story. But it's,
right.
In that, it's a king and the king's councillors that, he dresses up and does what he does to this guy.
Right. Okay.
So it's a similar thing, but not quite the same. So they kind of added those two characters to this because I guess they thought they would fit perfectly, and they do actually.
Yeah. I think it works. So musicians come in. They're playing with a dwarf and a young girl and a dog. She's
actually supposed to be a woman.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Because they
dub her with a woman's voice.
Girl.
It's clearly a child that they dubbed with a woman's voice.
Dubbed with a woman's voice, and it's very weird.
It's very weird, and I know what they meant. The intent wasn't this, but it makes it really creepy and weird. Mm-hmm. Like it's bizarre, but yeah. So Esmeralda dances and
everyone's enchanted.
Yes, especially, unfortunately, Alfredo, who immediately is like, oh, who's that? And Prospero's like, I fucking knew you would immediately ask me that.
Yeah.
And he makes it clear that he's basically like, you're intrigued by anyone with innocence, basically. He's like, any innocence you're attracted to, purely to corrupt, basically. But the girl knocks over a drink of wine.
Yeah.
And Alfredo immediately slaps her straight across the face, and she falls over. I mean, it's like the way it's filmed, it looks horrible. Like he properly
gives her a backhand.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Properly slaps her. Hop Toad goes to draw a knife. Like he's immediately gonna jump to her defense.
Yeah.
But Prospero basically gives him the look of death.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and Alfredo, I think they both kind of look like no. And instead he goes and helps Esmeralda up. Prospero then takes Alfredo away, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I think you're. we need to take you away from this. You've had too much. You're having too much fun now.
Yeah.
So enough of that." Yeah, he says. He said. Then he throws wine in Alfredo's face, right?
Yeah.
Who then threatens Prospero, because I think Prospero says, like, I was disappointed with that act. Like, it might entertain me by having wine thrown in your face. Alfredo threatens him. So this is an ongoing thing. There's clearly a rivalry between the two.
Because they're all lords.
Yes.
So
they're all lords, but the rest fall into line.
Yeah.
Alfredo is much more willing to stand up to Prospero.
Mm-hmm.
Publicly as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, I guess seeing this threat, Prospero kind of is like, time to change the subject. And he's like, look how you are all so lucky to be in my palace. You're all safe here because the Red Death is spreading. It's rife in the countryside. It kind of like... Sorry, go on.
Well, he basically takes off Francesca, doesn't he?
Yes.
Basically shows her his coloured rooms.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, he kind of says how rife the Red Death is out there, spreading across the countryside. You're all safe here. And then he's like, everyone should come back tomorrow night, presumably through that countryside. Like, just keep going through the countryside. It's full of Red Death. He's like, come back tomorrow night for my masquerade ball.
They don't leave. They're all staying.
Are they all staying? Okay, that makes more sense, actually.
No, they're not leaving. But they're basically within the walls of the
it's an ongoing...
They all obviously have their own rooms and whatever.
Yeah, it's an ongoing party, I guess. But tomorrow night is the masquerade ball, sorry.
Yeah.
And he offers everyone costumes and whatnot. But he tells them they are not to wear red. That's the one rule.
Yeah.
Nobody wears red. So yeah, as you said, he takes Francesca away.
He does actually, before that, he does also make the one of the guys, he says, "Oh, look at you, gorging your face."
Yeah.
I think aren't you a fat pig?
Oh yeah, yes, he's the first of the people to
be a fat pig.
Yeah.
And
he does immediately drops to his knees.
Immediately gets down. Yeah, they're all, they don't even really question it at all. They just get down and start becoming animals. And then he says, "Everybody be animals."
Yeah, they're all be your animal selves or whatever. I think is that later or is that now? It might be. Yeah, he's like, everybody be animals, and they all do. Everyone does it. Again, you get the impression this kind of shit happens all the time. They're just prepared,
and they're all
they're all happy doing it.
Jaded assholes that will do anything to pass the time. Really.
Yeah.
So why not be an animal and strut around the hall?
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Francesca is she comes in, doesn't she, wearing the gown?
Yeah.
And she gets introduced to everyone. I'm trying to think who she meets here.
I think she just sort of asks.
She just meets everyone, doesn't she? I guess he just introduces her to everyone.
She asks about her father and her lover, as it were. And he's like, yeah, later.
Yeah, and then he tells someone else to become a worm and all of that, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Francesca's kind of horrified as everyone becomes animals, effectively. So Prospero's like, hey, come to my yellow room. He takes her away to this big old yellow room, which is like literally everything in it is yellow, not just the walls, but everything.
I think in the story, I think it's slightly more prominent that every room has a different color.
Yeah, for some reason this one really sticks out.
Yeah, well, it's bright yellow, so.
But yeah, true. But the other rooms being
there's a white one. There's a I think it's a. Purple,
I guess the white one probably.
Of course, you've got the black room.
Yes.
At the end.
Yeah.
So but the yellow room, he explains that his father once imprisoned a guy for 3 years there.
Yes.
And when he released him, he could no longer bear the look of the sun.
Basically, and he's like, oh, I hate buttercups now.
Yeah, is it daffodils?
Daffodils, yes, daffodils. Yeah. Like anything yellow, then he's like, oh, sunflowers, no.
And, you know, she's horrified. It's like, why would he do that? It's like, well, basic, you know, for control, for...
He wants to control a man's mind.
Yeah. And that's the, you know, the theme for Prospero. The idea that, you know, he says he does these evil things because, you know, of the power, and he has, you know, someone has to control these
Yes. Yeah, it's his duty to control. Yeah.
Yeah, without his control and without his you know, his level of authority and power, everything would turn to chaos. Everything would you know, crumble. So he sees it as he is order.
Yeah. Yeah. And he also says, you know, as they enter the purple room, he says, you know, I think he reiterates he doesn't believe in God, and that if God ever existed, he's died now.
Yeah, because
and something else is in his place.
He says, you know, only death and war and awful things, you know, hold sway here, and she's like,
only because of fuckers like you.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be that way.
And she says, no, there are other things. There are love and hope and things. And he's like, hope. You know, he says if there was a God, then he's died long ago. You know, there's no hope or love left anymore.
These fucking villagers, man, covered in shit and ever optimistic, regardless. Like, oh, love.
They do seem to be an optimistic bunch. I'll give them that.
They really are, considering their situation. They are all very positive.
I guess you have to have a certain amount of hope, otherwise you wouldn't get out of bed.
Yeah, why would you bother? I guess that's a very good point, yes. And of course she does have love in her life and you know, whatnot, so for now. So,
and, you know, her innocence is, you know, what's keeping her alive, basically.
Oh, God, yeah, right now she's a curiosity. He's like, I need to break this, you know.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of this hope and this love and this joy out of this person, you know. Which is the same as Alfredo. They just both live to fucking suck that out of people, basically.
Yeah.
And they go to walk into the following room, don't they? And Prospero's like, "No, you're not ready for that room."
Yeah. And he does look fearful.
Yeah, he looks worried himself. He's like, "No, not that room. You're not." It looks like he's not ready for that room. Yeah, he's like, "No, not that room." And he says, you know, you've had a long day. And to be fair, she has had a long day.
Yeah.
A lot has happened since this morning. So he's like, you know, go and get some rest.
I captured your loved ones and pretty much destroyed your village.
Burnt your entire village. There was plague there. You know.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a day.
Yeah. And he says, you know, the next day, I promise, you know, you'll see Gino and... you know, and your father.
Yeah. Basically said, you know, you got to sleep on it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, sleep it off. It'll be all right. Don't worry about it. You'll feel better in the morning. I wouldn't sleep a fucking wink in this madhouse. I'll tell you.
You'd be moving the furniture toward over the door, wouldn't you? It's like
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd bar the doors for sure. So later that evening, Prospero is confronted by Juliana. She says, you know, she's ready to you know, she's ready for the deeper ceremonies. And he basically laughs it off. and basically says, you know, you're well, he kind of insinuates, he's like, you're not really ready. You're just trying to secure your position now that I've got Francesca. Basically,
yeah.
He's like, you're not ready. You're just too scared to lose your position, so you're gonna make yourself, you know, ready. Back in her room, Francesca wakes up. She hears wind, doesn't she? It's like the sound of wind that wakes her up.
Yeah.
And
well,
yes.
She goes over to it. It's a dress or a robe that's on the side that
Yeah.
she thought might have been a person.
Mm-hmm.
And then she hears in the distance, basically chanting, isn't it? It's some sort of Prospero performing some sort of ritual.
It's like Latin, Latin ritual going on. She sees blood on a book and screams. And then she puts on a robe and goes to investigate the chanting. And basically follows the voice until she gets to the yellow room. She then goes through the purple room, and then of course we know that the door beyond she wasn't ready for. But I gotta be honest, you know, I think the older I get, the more I realize I probably would fucking die in a horror movie, because I'm like, I need to know. I need to fucking know what's behind that door now. You've told me I can't go beyond that door. I'm like, really need to see. Just a little peek.
It's just human nature, though, isn't it? That's it.
It really is.
Human brain just goes, you know, someone says to you, do not go in there, and you immediately go, ooh, I wonder what's in there.
Yeah, I don't think, like, you know, if I've got, like, Jason Voorhees chasing after me, I'm not going to go run upstairs or do something, you know, really dumb like that, like people do, or go back to a place where, you know, there's, you know, a murderer. But that curiosity of, like, you're not allowed in that room, you're not allowed to press that button. I'm like, well. So she enters.
Especially if they say something along the lines of, you're not ready for that room. Yeah. That's like, well, fuck you. Who are you to say I'm not ready for the room?
I could be ready. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm ready for unknown room.
I do have to say, the room is slightly disappointing from what he said.
Yeah.
The way he sort of says, "Oh, you're not ready for that room." Oh, it's you know, it's the terrible things in that room.
I was expecting like the devil himself or something.
Yeah, it's like a couple of statues, some, you know, ritual accoutrements. You know,
yeah, it's a black room
and stuff,
and a coffin,
and it, really.
Yeah. It's
a throne. Yeah. And is he? I couldn't quite make out. Is he in a coffin?
I thought he was in a coffin, but
I think he is in a coffin, isn't he? So I guess, you know, depends on whether you're disturbed by going in a room and finding a coffin in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably most people are.
But he's lying there all dead, and she goes
in a rather striking gold and black robe.
Yes, very good. He is a good dresser.
Yeah, he is a very snappy dresser.
She goes to touch his face, and then he opens his eyes.
Yeah.
And she runs away screaming. She wasn't ready for that room.
No, she was not. Juliana's in there as well.
Oh yes, Juliana's in there, and a raven is in there. And she runs into Alfredo, who's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So I think does she think this is all a dream the next day?
Yeah, she wakes up.
She's kind of like, oh, that was a weird dream. I was like, okay, fair enough.
And he's just like, yep, definitely a weird dream.
Yes, it was definitely a dream. Do not go in the black room.
You did not go in the black room where we were.
I mean, it's not a black room. You've not seen that room. You don't know that it's black. It's a room. Don't go in that room.
I will say that the light's really good in there. Because of the red window. Again,
Technicolor, man.
Yeah, you get the beautiful sort of light falling on Hazel Court and that. It is lovely. And the actual. Do you know who the cinematographer is?
I don't actually.
It's Nick Roge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's like, wow. He was one of his sort of earlier jobs before he before he did his own sort of stuff. You know, I absolutely love. You know, he's got a really great eye.
Yeah.
Have you seen Performance?
Yes.
I mean, that is a fucking weird movie, but it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome.
and you know, the man who fell to earth and stuff like that. He's
wonderful.
He's a wonderful, you know, eye, and I think he brings a lot to this movie.
Absolutely. So the next day, Prospero takes Francesca outside, and he's like, you know, evil is it's a matter of perspective, and he shows her a falcon, which he sends off to murder a pigeon.
Yeah. And the way that he describes the training of a falcon by
blinding it,
sewed shut.
Yeah.
They have to rely on, you know, their masters until they're accustomed to only doing what he says, basically.
Yeah, and he compares that to God. He says God blinded people with the cross, you know, but that he serves a different master. I wonder who it could be.
Yes. Who could it possibly be?
Who could you possibly be worshipping? So she says, you know, well, hey, you forced me to remove my cross because it offended you, you know. But he says, you know, it offends no one following his master. And he basically says, well, he just felt it was rude, basically. He's like, it's discourteous to, you know, to wear a symbol of a dead god. It's rude. I wasn't offended. You were offended. And then he's like, okay, fuck it. Like, there's no point beating around the bush. I worship Satan.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I worship Satan, Lord of Flies, the fallen angel, and the devil.
Nasher does a wonderful job of looking shocked at every word he says.
Yeah. Well, I guess being the optimist, maybe she was hoping it wouldn't be this, you know.
Yeah.
But we hear the horn blowing, and he tells Francesca to come with him, and they head to the battlement where they see this carriage arriving. I forget the name of the person. It's a guest who arrives, and he's like, you know, I demand entrance. I'm a guest. I'm invited. But Prospero says, hey, you're Scarlatti, yes. Yeah. Prospero says, hey, you're no longer welcome due to the Red Death. It's like, well, you know, Red Death now. It's too late. For all we know, you might have contracted the Red Death. He starts begging for sanctuary and kindly offers up his own wife.
Yeah.
Prospero says, I've already had that doubtful pleasure.
Yeah, it's great because he says, you know, I know I've seen you looking at her. I know you want her, and it's like, yeah, already been there, mate. Basically.
Yeah. So he begins to.
She looks absolutely, you know,
horrified.
Well, horrified and really pissed off that her.
Well, yes, yeah.
And then, you know, at the betrayal of him, she just looks at her husband as like, "Fuck you,
yeah,
piece of shit," sort of thing.
Even though I cheated on you already. Although I guess with Prospero, you just, you know, probably didn't have much choice there. So.
No.
So he then says, you know, in the name of friendship, you know, please let me in the name of friendship.
Yeah, we just save me from the Red Death, basically.
And he kind of does save him from the Red Death.
Yes, exactly. He's good to his word. He loads a nice little crossbow up.
Yeah, he gets an arrow to the throat.
Bolt.
And then and then he throws a dagger at the wife.
Is my favourite transition.
Yeah.
He throws down the dagger basically for you know, here you go, love. Finish yourself off with it.
Deal with yourself, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Throws the dagger down, and then you get that great transition of the sword hitting the ground.
Yes, the sword is landed in front of Gino.
Yeah.
Who is being told to learn how to fight. But of course he's like, I'm not going to fight my friend. That's madness. Like, I'm not doing that. Because he's like, I know how this is going to go. You want me to kill my friend. I'm not going to do that. The guard is like, well, one of you might survive this if you just do what we tell you, you know? He doesn't actually say one of you will survive if you kill the other. He's like, if you kill your friend, you might survive.
Yeah, you might live to perform some other entertainment.
Yeah. Basically, you'll live as long as you're entertaining to us. But yeah, so you know the sword fight starts, and Prospero and Francesca head in and see the fight. And
so he's got a dab hand at the end.
He's pretty good, isn't he? He learned fast. He definitely
learned
fast.
That's what Prospero says. He learns quick, doesn't he?
Yes, yeah. And he tells Prospero, though, Gino, he says, you know, he will not fight his friend. Prospero says, basically, I will torture you. But Gino basically says, you know, that would be considered losing. Yeah, that kind of like I feel like he kind of, even Prospero's like, you got me there.
Yeah.
He's like, interesting, because I think Prospero likes it when people play games, right? He's like, play games, and he's like, you've actually, well done.
The worst thing for you to do with Prospero is to be boring.
Yes.
You know, anything to you know, enlighten the dullness of existing, basically, isn't it? It's, you know, I wasn't expecting that thing. That's okay. That's something new. Well, that good. You're interesting enough, I guess. You know, it's that
they are all, like you said, they are just so bored. Like they've got everything in life, all the excess. You feel like they've done everything there is to do at this point. You know, they've pushed it as far as they can, and now nothing really excites them. They're all just bored.
Yeah.
But he thinks about it, and then he's like, well, you know, I'll match you two in a death fight, ultimately. So then they wander through the dungeon, and Prospero tells Francesca that, in case you hadn't noticed, Positive Woman, sometimes life's a bit of shit. It's like life can be a bit cruel, you know. And like almost on cue, we hear this guy just screaming in agony.
Yeah.
And she asks if you know, that's a requirement of Satan and his worship. Is torture part of the process of worshiping Satan? And he tells the story of the Christian monk who tortured men, women, and children in order to save their souls. And he blamed it on God. And you know, he basically says, you know, I will lead you into the ways of Satan, but obviously she still refuses. Juliana prays, and basically, you know, she said she was ready. She's offering herself to Satan. She's branded.
She brands herself with an upside down cross. On her lovely boob.
Yes, and she asks to be made a demon.
She said send me a demon, doesn't she?
Oh, I thought she asked to be turned into a demon. But
no, I think she says send me a demon, I think.
Oh, okay. No, you may well be right. It was yesterday when I watched this. My memory is shockingly bad. I'm going, as always, listeners, I'm just working through online text that people have written summaries to remind myself, because we so often get these things out of order if I don't. So that's how bad my memory is.
Still do anyway.
Yeah, still manage it. Yeah, still manage to fuck it up, you know. But anyway, Alfredo, meanwhile, is conversing with Hoptoad. And you know, he says he wants to serve someone other than Prospero. And he basically says, you know, you can have my talents if you'll take me in. And this kind of leads to Hoptoad persuading Alfredo to come to the ball, and they start talking about costumes and what he's going to wear to the ball. And Hoptoad says, "Hey, you should come to the ball as a great ape." And he starts kind of like hopping around, and Alfresco likes this idea.
Well, he says, there's a great ape costume,
Yeah, because he's like, where would I get such a costume? And he's like, I've got one, don't worry.
Yeah, Prospero had a costume, that's been discarded for a long time because he got bored with it, basically. You'll be great. You'll come in, you'll scare the people. It'll be wonderful, and then you can show yourself later and how wonderful you are.
Yeah, you'll be the beast of the ball.
And he again, of anyone wants to be in charge, really. So he's more than happy to be flattered.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this does sound like a good idea, not realizing what an idiot he is.
Yeah. It's like it's so obvious to anyone apart from Alfredo. Meanwhile, Juliana enters and to see Francesca. Francesca sees the brand, and immediately assumes Prospero did it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I assume that asshole did that. But Juliana says, no, I did it to myself. She did it to herself to become a handmaiden of Satan. She says to Francesca, there's one more ceremony where she will give her soul. And then she will be immortal. She basically says she wants to be bound to Prospero. And basically, I want you out of the way.
You need to fuck off.
yeah. Just
the gist of it is you need to fuck off, love.
This was all going perfectly well until you showed up.
Yeah.
And so she's like, you know what? I will give you this fucking key. Take your peasant friends and leave. Escape, please. Which, Francesca is not opposed to as a concept.
No, it's like, let's get the fuck out of it.
This sounds like a good idea. You hate me, I hate you. Give me the keys, I will leave. I will take my friends and leave this horrible party. So Francesca heads down to the dungeon, and finds Gino and her father.
I love you always get in dungeons. There is always a bunch of guards playing cards.
Yeah, it's just the thing to do.
Yeah, it's like a prerequisite of being a guard. Can you play cards in the dungeon? Yep. Okay then.
Yeah. They're the only ones that seem to be able to entertain themselves in this fucking place.
That's true, actually. The guards seem to have it a little easier, don't they?
They're like, well, we enjoy just the simple guard things in life, playing cards and torturing people. That's our thing.
Yeah, torturing people and killing people when need be.
Yeah, it's what we do. But yeah, so
she gets as she's wandering through the cells. Each cell's like more horrific than the
yeah, it's just increasing levels of torture.
Yeah.
But yeah, she manages to free them, and they pass the guard room, don't they, as you said? And one of the guards sees someone goes past, so they go out to check. Gino has a fight, and
I do love that one of the.
He's a sword expert now. He's like, I am.
Yeah, he grabs one of the guards and slams them against the wall, and the guard immediately falls unconscious. And you're like, aren't you wearing a helmet and like full armor? How the hell did that knock you out?
Well, I guess his brain hit the back of his skull. And it was just sheer fucking G-force of Gino.
Yeah, Gino's flash-like reflex forced him into the wall.
He's gone from like useless peasant to fight master.
Yeah,
in a day. I guess torture might do that to you.
I will say that of the actors, that Gino's probably the only one that isn't terribly good.
I agree.
Almost everybody else in this movie is great except for him. He's a bit sort of almost like it's his. It might be his first film.
It may well be. I'm not actually
don't know the actor at all.
Actor, no. But yes, so yes, Gino. Gino, they head out to the onto the battlement, don't they? And Gino calls to the guard.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have a face-off. But Prospero turns up.
Well, he's disguised as a guard.
Yes, yes. He turns. You get that dramatic turn.
To them and does the dramatic turn.
And you get that snap zoom with the camera as well. It's like, oh, nice. And Francesca's like, oh my god, Juliana betrayed us. And Prospero's like, Juliana betrayed me.
Yeah.
And basically, because of your sins, one of these two dudes needs to die. And that's the end of it. One of them is going to die.
Yeah.
So...
And they haven't done anything wrong. And he's like, they've killed 3 of my men.
Yeah.
Of course, those, that's
the guard's fault. They taught him how to sword fight too well.
Yeah.
They taught him really good. He had one sword fight, and look at him.
Yeah, he's huge. He's huge.
He murdered a fully armored man by just pushing him into a wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I assume he was knocked out, but no. Let's say he murdered that man. That man is dead.
Yeah.
But
he said, that's what he's performed an evil act. He's killed 3 people.
Yeah. I mean, ignore the fact that yesterday I said I was going to get one of the 2 of them to die in a fight to the death. Ignore that I said that. Now it's because they murdered these people. Now it's justice.
Yeah.
So anyway, back at the party, the ever ongoing party, the never-ending party. Everyone's seated and there's just fucking food for days coming out. Dancers, musicians, everything. Prospero enters and he calls for attention, and he says that at midnight the masks go on, he says that some among them still harbor good thoughts, which obviously is not good. And then he says it's time for our entertainment, and of course Gino is they're both brought in, and
I do love the way he's doing the speech.
Yes,
and, like throwing these daggers.
It's like 5 daggers, 6 daggers. He throws down.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, and he says, it's the old, later, not the old, the later, Flash Gordon hand in the tree thing.
Yes.
One of these is poisoned, and it will kill in 5 seconds. So basically, it's Russian roulette with daggers.
Yeah.
And he basically says, each of you needs to cut yourself with one of the daggers. And so they do. They take it in turns, and they start counting as well, don't they? They do they do the count. But eventually, the final dagger is taken by the father. And I actually thought this was quite well done, because he does immediately. It's quite a good lunge this guy does. It's kind of okay. I can see that almost worked, actually. He goes to stab Prospero across the table, but he fails.
Prospero knows exactly what he was going to do.
Oh god, yeah, he was ready.
His sword out, so he just basically. Prospero doesn't really do anything. He just stands there with the sword out, and the guy just skewers himself on the sword, basically.
Yeah. And now he's like, you ruined the game. You're both going to die now. That's the end. Yeah. Like, you screwed this game up. Now you've got to die.
You didn't play fair.
Yeah. Again, though, Francesca with the save, begging for Gino's life.
Yeah.
So Prospero, charitable man.
This time she actually, doesn't she?
She says, you're mine. I'm yours. Sorry. If you let him live, I will willingly give myself to you.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay, I accept that offer. I will not kill Gino. You can go outside and get plague instead.
yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Off you go.
He can go outside and face the Red Death. To be
fair, I think I'd rather fucking do.
Yeah, God, yeah.
I mean, This place, this fucking madhouse.
I mean, no offense. You know, no offense. This isn't a fucking, like, pandemic situation. We've seen the grand total of one fucking person with the Red Death, and also, none of us saw it, only you.
Yeah.
Only Prospero. Now, obviously, we, the audience, have seen it, but the villagers, like, we didn't even see that. Like, one person, by your eyes only, has had this bloody Red Death. Yeah, I think I would rather go outside, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I can keep a 2-meter distance. It's fine. Yeah, I'll wear a face mask when I roll around in shit. It's fine. So yeah, that's it. And of course Prospero can't just leave it there. He's like, you know, where's your god now? And he starts taunting him, and he's basically released, but of course Gino swears he will return to his beloved.
Yeah.
She then like kind of says like, can I go with him?
Yeah.
Can I go get the Red Death too? But of course he's like, no. That's not happening.
Of course not. You're staying here, love.
But then she's like, well then bring him back and I'll submit myself to you. But of course Juliana enters and she says, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready for the final ceremony. I'm ready to sell my soul and become a maiden of Satan. A handmaiden of Satan, I think.
Yeah.
But of course, yeah, so Gino is cast out and off he goes to the forest. And we hear Vincent Price is laughing. And screams of Francesca across the wind. He then, after some time in the woods, comes across the man in red sitting under the tree, playing with his cards. Again, guards and the man in red play with cards.
Yeah.
Although he's playing with tarot cards, he's not playing with playing cards.
Well, tarot cards were playing cards. They did use them in games.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow, I've learned something new today. So the man in red's like, so how's your day going?
Yeah.
And,
so what you doing?
Yeah, what you doing? And Gino's like, you know, I've had better days.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
he's like,
well, everything sucks.
Everything sucks. I murdered a couple of people, and my girlfriend is stuck in a castle with a weirdo.
Yeah.
In a castle full of weirdos, but with the prime weirdo of the castle, head weirdo.
Yeah.
And you know, the man gives Gino one of his cards as a sign.
He says to him, you know, you murdered, you know, was it for yourself? And he said no. He says no, it wasn't. You know, it was for someone else. It was.
Well, it's kind of you as well, but yeah.
I mean, it benefited him, but it was.
Yeah, I was going to say it wasn't. You know, I mean, it was mostly for her, but it definitely.
He didn't. It wasn't a murder.
His primary motive wasn't himself. Yeah,
so,
it was defense. Yeah.
And he says, I've got to get back and stuff. And again, it's like for yourself, and he's like, no, it's for her.
Mm.
So then he gives him the card.
The card, so, yeah.
Here is the token, sort of thing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alfredo is now in his ape costume, and Toad's kind of like telling him how to walk and what to do, and you know, this is how an ape behaves, as if Alfredo has no idea how apes are meant to behave. But he says, you know, once you're, you know, he says, oh, you know, you can remove your costume once the night kind of continues. So the idea is that he's gonna burst out of this outfit, and everyone's gonna be amazed. They're gonna be, oh my god,
yeah,
what an incredible
performance
you've given here. Is this great ape? Gino finds some villagers who are heading for the castle, and they're basically like, it turns out, joking aside, the Red Death is real.
Yeah.
And it is spreading at quite a rate. So these villagers, presumably from a different village, are heading for the castle to basically get sanctuary. One of the women actually has the Red Death. She's being carried on a stretcher. He tries to stop them heading to the castle, but they're having none of it. They're like, look, we've been living out in this Red Death forest. We're going. It's kind of their last hope at this stage.
Yeah, he's like our Lord, isn't he? So he's fine. He's fine.
They're bloody. All of these villagers are so optimistic.
Yeah, they are.
These Tories, they'll look after us. Don't worry about it. They're fine. They'll be great. They're our masters. What could go wrong?
Fine, yeah. No
problem. Juliana is starting her ceremony at this point. She starts chanting at the altar. She drinks some fucking mushroom wine.
Yeah, mushroom tea or something along those lines. Something that definitely has a kick.
Yeah. It has effects, shall we say. She starts dreaming that she's running through these corridors and eventually finds herself at the altar. But is horrified when she sees 5 different men holding weapons over her.
Yeah.
She starts screaming, and then she kind of comes to the laughter of Prospero.
It's actually it's a great
transition.
You got those lovely green sort of light this time, and I love the way that she screams noiselessly.
Oh God, yes.
Each of the passing
each room
would be sacrificers, basically.
Yeah.
You get I think it's like an Aztec guy, and I think the second one is either Russian or he's some sort of Russian druid, maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
It's got like a little sickle, hasn't he? So I think he's supposed to be a druid, and then you get an Egyptian.
Yeah.
An Aztec guy, druid, Egyptian, and then finally it's like a witch doctor, isn't it? And they're all sort of like, holding weapons over and ready to sacrifice her, and yeah, each one passing one, she screams soundlessly.
Yeah.
And then eventually wakes up.
Yes, and calls for Prospero. She starts searching room to room, and she tells him, basically, she's like, hey, I'm handmaiden of the devil now.
Yep.
It's all good. Of course, he says, there's more to come. And in the main room, we see a big old pendulum. Big old swinging pendulum, which we saw earlier, right?
Yes, it's a clock.
It's like the most dangerous clock in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get that great voiceover saying about fears have just begun, and she is then murdered by ravens.
No, it's a falcon. It's the falcon kills her.
Oh, is it the falcon?
Yeah.
Okay, it may well be. I thought it was a raven because we saw the raven earlier. You may be right though.
It's a falcon, yeah.
You may be right.
Falcon basically rips pieces.
Raven makes more sense. Sorry, the falcon makes more sense, but
yeah.
But yes, she dead.
Oh yeah, she's ripped to shreds.
Yeah, ripped to pieces.
Actually gets a genuine response from one of the guests who screams and calls all the others over, and Prospero basically walks up and says, "Do not grieve her. She's just married a friend of mine."
Yeah. It's time for the party. He calls for the masquerade ball to start. We see the villagers have now turned up. They're begging for mercy. They get told to go back to the burnt village. Head back to the burnt village. Go back there. They eventually they're like, oh, right, fine, we'll go get Prospero. You don't want me to get my boss. Believe me, you do not want me to get my boss. But if you're telling me to get my boss, I'll go get the manager.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, all right, Karen, I'll go and get the manager.
Yeah, basically. Gino, meanwhile, is like, guys, you don't want the prince to come out here. Trust me. But but they won't listen. Prospero comes out and he tells them all to basically fuck off. Get back to your fiery village.
Get back to your hovel.
Yeah.
Hovel.
And ultimately, he's like, right, kill all of them. Apart from the child.
Except for the child, yeah.
And they're like, what? And like, you heard me. Don't kill the child. So they murder everyone except for the child.
Yep.
And Gino, obviously. Back inside, Prospero throws down a load of jewels, and everyone kind of...
Gifts for all my friends.
Yes, gifts for all my friends. He tells Francesca that all of these rich people suffer from greed, and he says, they've all got everything they could ever want, but they always want more. It's just constantly after more and more riches. And he basically he comes in, he throws the jewels down. He's like, jewels for all my friends. By the way, all the villagers are dead. But party, keep partying. Jewels.
Yeah.
Not that I think any of these assholes would have cared anyway, but
fuck. Oh, some peasants died. Okay.
Yeah, I just murdered an entire village. Oh well, okay, cool.
It must be Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it must be Tuesday. Yeah, so
Mr. Ape comes in.
Well, basically, I guess he's kind of claiming that he's cured the Red Death. He's like, I've cured the Red Death. Everybody's dead.
Well, I mean, that is one way of looking at it, I suppose. Kill everybody, there's no one to have it.
Yeah, done. Problem solved. But yeah, and he basically turns to Francesca and he says, you'll be initiated soon. Soon you'll understand as you're initiated.
Yeah.
And yeah, they begin dancing. Everyone's dancing at this point. While Gino climbs the wall. He's fucking Action Man now. He's like, oh, I'll use these vines and climb up the wall, and I'll kill all the guards, and
Well, he meets the Red Death again, doesn't he? And the Red Death tells him to sneaking in using the guards' uniform, sort of thing.
Yes, yeah. The
guard been killed.
Yeah. And he says, doesn't he say that he has to wait until 1:00?
Yeah.
And then Francesca will be sent out. But Gino's obviously like, I really want to save her now, but fine, okay, I'll trust you, Red Death Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously the man in red has disappeared again. Hoptoad enters to see Esmeralda and tells her basically, you better get ready. Get ready to leave. Pack. Just pack. She's like, okay, I trust you,
Yes, we're going to take our chances outside.
Yeah, sod this. Everyone's dead out there anyway. Should be fine. So Hoptoad enters the party with his ape friend.
Yeah.
And of course, he's playing along, doing the ape. Hoptoad starts cracking his whip, and he says to everyone, "Hey, I'm the master. I'm the master of the ape." And of course, being the pervy man he is, the ape starts grabbing this woman, and they fall to the floor. And then Hoptoad unties the candles, doesn't he? The ceiling light.
He brings the chandelier down.
Yeah. And then he starts saying, "Oh my god, the ape's out of control!" And he starts tying the candle to him. He starts tying the fixtures to him.
Yeah, he basically ties him to the chandelier.
Yeah,
he?
And then
we must control him. We must,
Well, yeah, he's out of control ape. We've got to capture the ape because he's out of control. Of course, at this point, Alfredo's like, I think I have been conned.
Yeah, there's
I think I see the very obvious plot now. It's only now that I see how obvious a plot this was.
Yeah, it's only now that I realise I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and he's like, let me go. But Hoptoad's like, hey,
gives him a nice drink of brandy.
Yeah.
Completely covers him in brandy.
And he basically says, you insulted Esmeralda.
Yep.
Therefore, die. And yeah, as you said, he douses him in brandy and sets him on fire.
Yep.
Surprisingly, or is it? No, I think it's. I was surprised that the partygoers even care. I guess outside of they don't want to be set on fire themselves, I suppose. It's probably more screams out of concern for themselves rather than someone's on fire.
I don't think they care. I think they're more worried that it's just another entertainment to them. They just don't want to be caught on fire.
Yeah. Obviously eventually the whole fixture falls due to the fire. Prospero calls for the guards to remove him. Hoptoad leaves the room, well,
he doesn't. Yeah, he's not.
He leaves, and then I think they're all like, "Well, the body's been removed. Let's get back to dancing."
Yeah,
like, okay, party on. So yeah, the dance starts happening again, and Prospero starts glimpsing the man in red now.
Yeah,
now, Prospero said no one was to wear red, so at first Prospero is kind of incensed that someone's wore red. Someone has, gone against his orders.
The funny thing is if you look at the crowd,
I know, it is an issue.
There's like a couple of people wearing red hats or red cloaks. It's like, okay, it's like,
yeah,
you really should have, had been a bit more thorough with their costume colours.
Yeah, you almost feel like they had what they had for the big scenes, and they were like, "Fuck, we're just gonna have to."
Yeah.
Like spread the red out so that no one's wearing a lot of red.
Look so bad.
Yeah. Limited wardrobe, I imagine, because it's a big crowd of people. Crowds of people.
Yeah.
Are difficult. I imagine they were just raiding the costume department of like whatever you've got that's period accurate.
Yeah.
It'll have to do. Yeah, but he says to Francesca, he's like, I said no one was to wear red. So he starts following the man in red. And finally he gets to the black room, and he's confronted.
But he says, command you to stop. And he sort of commanded me, I stopped.
Yeah.
And at first he's like, I know you. That voice is very familiar. You're such and such. It's like,
yes.
No, definitely not him.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's an emissary from Satan.
Yeah, he basically just assumes. He's like, oh my god, you're Satan himself. You've come to,
Yeah.
You've come to my party. Thanks. Finally.
I think it's a recognition.
Yeah, and he starts treating him immediately. He's like, okay, I guess you're the devil, and he just assumes. He's like, oh, you're the devil. And he makes Francesca bow down immediately. He's like, bow down. And he says, show your face. But of course he says, the man in red says you will, because he's wearing this full face mask. You can't see his face.
Yeah.
He says you'll only see my face upon your death.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, everyone will be unmasked soon. He's like, unmasking will reveal everyone's faces. So they leave the room, and Prospero is kind of following him, and he's almost kind of elated that he's like, hey, Satan's at my party. Like, Satan turned up.
He's fine. This is it. This is the proof of he thinks this is proof of that he's done the right thing. He's backed the right side.
Yeah. It's like a kid who's like, invited all of their kid friends to a party and a celebrity. It's like, oh, yeah. I invited The Rock or something, and then The Rock's actually turned up. He's like, oh my god, he actually turned up, guys. Like, hey, Satan's here. Remember when I said I invited Satan? He's here. You all doubted me. He got my letter.
Yeah. I like that your go-to was The Rock.
I was trying to think of a fucking celebrity that... I don't know. He's like the biggest fucking star on the planet, isn't he?
I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, I'm dated with my bloody celebrity, celebrity. Yeah. So it was a modern celebrity that I knew
probably
of.
Would have picked somebody much earlier.
Exactly. Well, I was like, no, it needs to be current day, right?
about Tom Cruise?
Yeah, Tom Cruise, he's still around.
That's he's still relevant.
Yeah.
Enough.
Oh my fucking god! Imagine if he came to a kid's party, he'd be jumping up and down on the sofas. And a nightmare.
The weirdest thing is that I imagine Tom Cruise would probably do something like that.
He probably would do something like that. I can imagine him turning up to someone's party randomly. Bringing some Scientology books with him, passing them out like pamphlets.
Yeah.
Join my cult.
Talk to us about photons, isn't it, or something? Or photons, or whatever the it is.
I listened to so many podcasts once about Scientology. I found it fascinating and horrifying.
It's very odd.
Oh god, yeah.
It's
awful, but
yeah,
but very, in a horrible way. It's like, wow, I'm fascinated by these people.
Just the stories you hear of people that have like
got out.
Yeah,
horrifying. Yeah.
Wow, this is mental.
Yeah.
There's so many of Hollywood have been members. It's weird.
Yeah, well, they say that the people in Hollywood, they maybe not Tom Cruise, but most of them aren't aware of how bad Scientology is the theory. So that when they say how great Scientology is, their experience has been great because they're treated amazingly well as celebrities, and it's like
they've got shitloads of money, and
they don't realize or they're ignorant to the fact that most people in Scientology are treated horribly and get nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that was a random aside.
Back to the end of this movie. Satan has turned up, or has he? Prospero is basically, heading around, and he's taking Satan for a walk around his party.
And you get that wonderful little sort of thing of, he raises his robe, the arm robe, and then removes it, and you see that two of the dancers suddenly got the Red Death.
Yeah.
They continue to dance.
Yeah, they don't care.
That's what he keeps doing. He keeps revealing more of the dancers with the Red Death.
Yeah, and then eventually they do start collapsing, one by one. And he tells him to take off his mask again. He's like, I want to see your face. The man in red refuses. So ultimately, Prospero removes the mask himself. And twist of twists, he sees his own face covered in red. He sees his own face, and as the Red Death entity said before, he'll reveal everyone's faces, and he basically says, "I'm not the devil.
Yeah,
I never was the devil. He is death."
He has no master. He has
no master. Yeah, because he says, well, he says, my pact with Satan will save me. He's like, nope, nope, not even Satan will save you from this.
And he sounds really pissed off when he says about, Satan's going to help me, and so it's like, and he's like, basically says, what do you know of Satan?
Yeah.
But Satan is not going to help you. You
backed the wrong horse
about how the universe works.
Yeah, you backed the wrong horse, buddy. So anyway, everyone starts collapsing until Prospero is the only one left.
Well, it's again, you get that lovely sort of they're all dancing
they all
around
grab at him,
and grabbing at him, and he's desperately trying to get away.
Yeah,
and then they slowly start falling.
Yeah,
down to their deaths, as it were.
And he's desperate to kind of evade the Red Death, runs basically for his life and heads for the Black Room.
Yeah.
But of course,
we did miss one bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's just before the sort of reveal, he says he begs for Francesca to be spared.
Yes, he does, and he says, he's kind of intrigued by that.
He thinks that they're going to be together at the end. It's like, just spare her, because when this is all over, it'll just be me and her.
But the Red Death at that point takes it as a noble act.
Yeah, he thinks, oh, an act of mercy.
Yeah, he doesn't realize that what he actually thinks is he's protected by Satan, so if she goes, they can be together.
Yeah.
The Red Death at that point is like, oh, a selfless act. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. It's like, no, it's not what you think.
Yeah,
your suspicions are correct.
She's up, and she actually, you know, she kisses him.
Yes,
she kisses Prospero on the on the cheek and looks at him with pity.
Yeah,
she still has compassion for him, even though she's seen him do horrible things.
He's been a complete bastard. Yeah.
She still has compassion. She still believes in God, basically, and she kisses him and she leaves.
Yeah. So anyway, he runs. Prospero runs to the Black Room, and he finds the man there, the Red Man, and as you said, he gives him the Red Death.
Yeah, which is quite good because he's the only one that's properly gushing blood.
He
gets it.
He gets
like
all
dripping
of it
down his face.
Yeah,
that's the end of you, sunshine.
Yeah. So the Red Death, is well, I mean, the Red Death is awful. It's taken loads of innocent people, but it seems to particular. I think it's the Satan insult that causes him to get the gushing red death. He's like, right, I'm gonna, he's like, I've given the Red Death to everyone else, but you're the one that tried to get all of these people to safety in your palace and defied the Red Death, and you're the one that's telling me that Satan's going to protect you when death is above Satan. So you get the really horrible Red Death. You get the like ultra Red Death.
You get the nice bleedy type kind.
Yeah. You get
proper dripping.
You get Red Death 2.0. So yes, and then we cut to the man in red playing cards again. Now he's playing cards with the girl.
Mm-hmm. The last surviving girl of the crowd.
Yes, yeah. And then we get the men arrive, reporting the deaths.
The other deaths, yeah. Yellow, white, blue, orange, and violet. Oh, and black.
Mm.
And they all say, how many people have you claimed this night? And it's, I claimed this many sort of souls. And, this wandering is so tiring. And it just sounds like they're clearly a bunch of deaths that are like, it's our job. And it's like, we get no thanks for it. And
yeah, it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So if I'm reading this rightly, I think so. White death is tuberculosis, yellow is yellow fever, orange is scurvy, blue is cholera, violet is influenza, and black is the bubonic plague.
Nice.
So red says here it's anthrax, but I don't know whether that's true or not. It's the bleeding thing is more of a I don't know. What is it? Since that one's cholera, I don't know. Yeah, that one's cholera. So, oh well. Either way, it's gross.
It's not nice.
And so yes.
But yeah, so he says only 6 survived. A man, a woman, a dwarf, a small lady, and a girl from the village.
No, an old man from the village.
Well, the girl that he's playing cards with.
Yes, the girl. Yes, so the girl, the young couple, Esmeralda and Hoptoad, and an old man from the village.
Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, and he basically says, how the Red Death declares sic transit gloria mundi.
Yeah.
Thus passes the glory of the world. As they disappear. And the final text says, and darkness and decay and the Red Death held illimitable domain over all. Which is the last word of the story.
Yeah. And yes, that is The Masque of the Red Death from 1964. Wonderful, wonderful film. There's been several adaptations.
There's an Adrian Paul version which I haven't seen, but I really want to.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, I must admit.
I think it's going to be terrible, but I'm totally willing to give it a go.
Yeah, why not?
He in it, so.
There's the Frank Stallone version.
Oof. I've
Um,
seen bits of that.
yeah.
The thing is, the story's been in lots of stuff. It's been used in lots of things. There are about 5 metal bands that have taken samples from.
Now, this sounds interesting. According to Wikipedia, Hawaii Brothers Media out of China said in 2017 that they were going to produce Akira Kurosawa's unfilmed screenplay.
Yes, I heard that.
Which apparently has not happened yet. I would be interested to see that if that ever happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely love this version. I have not seen the silent film, The Plague of Florence. But yeah, this version, wonderful, wonderful film.
Yeah.
And yeah,
even things like Phantom of the Opera. When the Phantom enters the ball in the old version, and some versions have copied it, he's wearing the Red Death costume.
Yes.
When he comes out.
Yeah.
Which is like really fucking cool. I love that. Is one of my favorite costume designs. The one from the black and white.
Yeah.
Where he comes with the skull and stuff. It's really fucking cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. But yes, that is The Masque of the Red Death. Highly recommended, obviously. I'm glad we've finally done a Vincent Price movie.
Yeah.
Surprised we haven't done one before, but I'm pretty sure. I keep thinking about it. I've been thinking about it all day. I'm pretty sure we haven't done a Vincent Price movie yet, which is surprising. But
probably talked about it about the Fly when we did.
Yeah, we probably just kind of touched on it, but we didn't cover the Fly fully. So
no, not his version.
No. Or Return of the Fly. But yes, so we will be back next week with our usual review fare. But until then, stay safe. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.